All right, y'all. It is late. It's like 10:15 p.m. my time. It has been a long day. And, if you are following along with this 30 days of posting every day, you already know I start with a little preamble, start with a little storytelling, whatever, and then get into the meat of the conversation. So if you don't want to hear this, just skip, and I'll put the timestamp down at the bottom. You can just skip to the good part. But hello, everyone. It's been a long day. It is the end of the day. Listen, commitment. That's what this is. I was so excited. My video yesterday, I got a new response from another person who is also doing this challenge, and I just followed her. Hi. If you are following me as well, let's see. Pascale. I don't know if I'm saying your name correctly, Pascal, but I appreciate your comment and I'm following you now. And let's keep each other accountable to keep going with this challenge. Yeah. All right, y'all. Today's topic, I'm thinking about what it feels like to move to a new place and how you're so excited and you have that energy, that adrenaline of the new country, the new city, new people, fresh perspectives, like a fresh start. And there's an excitement that comes with that. And there's a sense of joy and a sense of curiosity that you don't always get when you are at home, right? But, after the excitement of the relocation kind of wears off, then the reality of this new life starts to set in. And then that's when shit gets real, right? And so I want to talk a little bit about the unexpected grief that can come with choosing a different life, that can come with choosing to live abroad, to move away from your family and friends. Um, and even you can even kind of extend that to other more non-conventional decisions, life decisions that you can make. Like for me, choosing not to have children, there's a certain level of grief and acceptance that I have to have for that type of decision, right? So I want to kind of like dive into that a little bit and talk about what I've learned, and in particular around moving away and being a traveler, being a solo traveler, living abroad, that kind of thing. Um, yeah, I guess I can kind of like start with the benefits. Obviously, as I said before, the benefit of having that fresh start, a feeling of a fresh start, especially if you are moving of your own accord, right? And not because you're feeling forced to. Obviously, becoming an immigrant for a number of different reasons is a thing. But from this perspective, from my perspective, it's I moved because I wanted to, not because life circumstances forced me to. And I'm keeping that in mind. That is a very different thing. But the benefits for, someone that is traveling solo, moving abroad of their own accord, is that there can potentially be an easier day-to-day life. I feel like in the United States, for me personally, as someone from the US, there is a sense of there's an unearned sense of urgency within the US. There's this constant go, go, go. There's a feeling of whatever you're doing, especially when it comes to work, this idea that it has to be done immediately or that, it's everything's burning on fire all the time. When, you leave the United States, go to Europe, certain areas in Europe, for instance, or Latin America, or, where I am in Mexico, people work hard, but there's not that same urgency and there's not the same sense of like your work being your only identity that you would see in the United States, right? So there's that difference. And I feel like too, as a Black woman moving to another country, I think about the safety situation back home in the United States. We all know about police brutality. We all know about the current state of our government and the fact that that's not something that I have to deal with, that weight and that fear and anxiety that sits in the back of your mind. It's not there for me here. and it's a little odd, like, it's a little weird because you get so used to the anxiety and the noise that sits in the back of your head every time you leave your home, and you're hoping that while you're driving, you don't, get pulled over by a corrupt police officer, or, you go to a movie, you go to church, you go to get your nails done, you go to a grocery store and you hope that some man won't come in there with a firearm. You know what I mean? Like these are, at least for me, these were things that would happen. These were little prayers I would pray as I'd leave my house for safety while I was in the States. And here, if I see a police officer here, 9 times out of 10, that police officer is hoping I don't walk up to them because they know I'm a foreigner. And they're assuming that I cannot speak Spanish, and then they would have to then figure out how to communicate with me, right? So 9 times out of 10, that is the response that I get. They're either kind or they ignore me. I don't have to worry about some of the other issues there. I think too about the financial benefit. Obviously, if you are an entrepreneur, if you work remotely, if you are making US dollars or euros or a stronger currency, um, then that can be beneficial when you move to another country, potentially. Right? It depends on where you go. It depends on your lifestyle, how you choose to live. Um, but that can be a potential benefit as well. And it's one of those things where you have to be careful of lifestyle creep because it's so easy to look at the conversion rate and say, "Oh, I can afford to take care of myself in other ways here that perhaps I couldn't back home." And so that's a potential benefit of moving away, right? And then on top of that, the new community that you can create, the new experiences you can have, the new perspectives that you can experience when you leave is also an incredible benefit too, right? That said, there are certain difficulties as well that I think a lot of people who hype up moving abroad or traveling solo or being a digital nomad or an immigrant, they don't always talk about these things. And one of them in particular is the new, just as much as the new culture can be exciting and fascinating and you want to dive in at first, then there are certain drawbacks too, because it's new. It's you're not used to it. There are plenty of times where I have embarrassed myself royally because I didn't understand the nuances of the culture that I'm a part of, this new culture I'm a part of. Um, I have tried to explain things in broken because my Spanish, I am not fluent. And I have tried to explain things to immigration when I've come in broken Spanish, and they have looked at me like I had 4 heads because I was using the grammar incorrectly. I was using the wrong words. Like, I've had some moments. Um, but beyond that, you think about new bureaucracy, a new banking system, if you are interested in getting residency or going to the immigration office, all of these things, you are at the mercy of the government of your new home, and so navigating those systems can be difficult. And it's really helpful to have someone that is familiar, that speaks the language fluently if you're in a space or you're in a country where you don't speak the language fluently. I would say that if you're doing anything government-wise, even if you speak Spanish or French or Korean or whatever, it's helpful to get someone. I would say that that's probably the best money that I've spent since I've been here is hiring a facilitator, hiring a lawyer that understands the immigration process, that understands what is needed and what is necessary, that can assist with translation of documents and ensuring that you get the right appointments within the immigration office, you know, a person that can help you set up your bank account, right? And help you figure out how to do things because it is very different. So that's one piece of advice I would give to kind of mitigate that. Hire somebody. Hire somebody if you can. It's probably going to be the best money that you've spent. Ask around. Ask other foreigners who they've worked with and go with someone reputable. Yeah. Um, the other difficulty too that I think about a lot is like missing friends and family, and in particular, missing milestones, missing birthdays, missing, you know, when my best friend had her daughters, I don't think I was in the States either time that she had her daughters. Um, and that can be rough to miss birthdays, to miss funeral. Like my when my dad's mom, when my grandmother passed, I was in South Korea and I was going through the oh, what's it called? I was going through the orientation period to become an English teacher in South Korea. So I was in Seoul going through, it was like 2 weeks. It's like a week and a half, 2 weeks of orientation before they sent us out to our respective schools. And I that while I was there, I got the message that my grandmother had passed. That was really rough. That was really rough. And so, as you are having these new experiences, as you're creating this new life for yourself, life is continuing on for your family and friends back home. And so that's something to keep in mind as well. And the other thing that I think not enough people talk about is the the aloneness, the loneliness that you can feel, especially if you're solo. Now, I want to preface this because I feel like this is something that people who I've talked to, who ask questions about my life, questions about, my travels and stuff like that, and in particular about living abroad, people will tell me, especially women, will tell me like, "I love the idea, but I'm terrified. I don't wanna do it by myself." Because I'm afraid of how lonely it would be just being in a country where I don't know anybody and I don't know anything, and I'm just trying to make a new life, like, and then traveling by yourself, like, I don't have anybody to share this with, like that kinda thing. And I get it, I'm telling you I get it. I do. In fact, this last trip that I took, to Hawaii, that was one of the first that was one of the first trips I've taken where I felt like, "Wow, it'd be really nice. This is something that would be really nice to share with someone else." So I know how that feels to be, sitting on a gorgeous beach, with the breeze blowing and the weather is perfect, and the only thing you want is someone to share it with. I know how that feels, I do. I am also aware, and this is something that kind of helps to take loneliness and put it in its correct perspective and its correct place. The fact is, loneliness is a feeling that every human being experiences, whether they are partnered or single. Whether they are living with family and they have brothers and sisters and their parents running around everywhere, or they're living in an apartment alone. Everybody experiences loneliness. And so when I look at it like this, like I am not special in this particular feeling, in what I'm feeling right now. This is something that everyone has experienced. It is an emotion just like any other emotion. Joy, sadness, happiness, um, e e all of those things. Anger, right? It is an emotion just like every other. And so when I put it in that perspective, and then also I think too, there are a lot of people that are in relationships right now where they feel alone. There are a lot of women who are in relationships, who have husbands, long-term boyfriends, long-term partners, who feel alone. And I look at the situation and I say, you know what? If I had to choose between feeling alone by myself or feeling alone in relationship, I would rather I would rather experience loneliness by myself because then I have the freedom to remedy that loneliness however I choose. But if I were in a relationship, then there's some constraints there. You know, do you feel me? Like there's a little there could be some constraints there. It's difficult to remedy that feeling of loneliness when you have, you know, a long-term partner sitting beside you. Um anyway, I try to look at loneliness as a fact of life and not um a feeling that defines me and defines this moment in my life, if that makes sense. I don't try to put a moral failing on it. Like, oh, if I'm feeling lonely right now as a single woman living, you know, in Mexico or in South Korea or in St. Croix or wherever, then there must be something wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with you. It's okay. There will be moments of loneliness. There will be moments of sadness. There will be moments of like, and that's why I, you know, kind of titled this as like grief, right? There's a certain grief that you experience of letting go of the life you lived back home, especially if you're going to be gone for a year or more. You know, there will be a period of grief, and some people call it homesickness. Um, you know, it's a part of it. And if you allow yourself to move through it, um, you'll come out the other side, and be better for it. So, you know, I think about ways to cope. Oh, one other thing too. Um, I also realized that like making friends as an adult can feel really difficult. You know, you come into a new place, a new city, and you realize the people there have very established relationships and connections. And depending on where you are, some people will be more friendly and open, others may not. That's a part of it. And I think a way to cope with that is to become really good friends with yourself. Take the time. Like, especially as a solo traveler, you're going to have moments where you're alone. You're going to have moments, you know, in your Airbnb or in the hostel that you know, that you're staying at where it's going to be just you. Take that time. Take that time to journal. Take that time to sit and meditate or just be. Um, one thing that I like to do, because sometimes like journaling by hand can be really difficult for me. One of the things that I like to do is get like what's it called? The recorder on my phone. And I'll just turn that on and just talk. Just stream of consciousness. Just get some of that mental clutter, get some of those feelings out. And then I feel better. Also, girl, get some hobbies. Get some hobbies. Go to a class. Take a language class. If you move to a place and you don't know the language, get in a language class. That will allow you to meet other foreigners and get connected with locals as well. You could take a fitness class, a dance class. It's good to get into hobbies that get you out of the house. And I know I am an introvert to my core. I enjoy my alone time. I have a very rich imagination, and I take full advantage of being able to cocoon in my own space and work on personal projects and read and write and do all of that. The thing about that though is that it doesn't allow for space to meet new people because you're at home. It doesn't allow your personality and your time to expand to include others if you're always at home. And I'm preaching to the choir because I'm always at home. I'm always at home. So, getting into a language class, getting into a fitness class, doing something that gets you out of the house and meeting new people, I think is really important. And the other part of that too, as far as meeting new folks, I think about when I first came down here and also when I first moved to Korea as well. One of the things I did was I got on Facebook and searched Facebook groups. Facebook groups, I know, in the States, Facebook is kind of like, for your aunties and uncles and your grandma and them. That's how they kind of keep up with each other. But in the rest of the world, Facebook groups can actually be really helpful. So there's like brothers and sisters of South Korea. There's brothers and sisters of Mexico City. And these in particular are like groups of Black folks that are staying in the cities or countries that you're looking for. And I mention that because for me, being able to connect with other Black people, especially in countries where there are not a lot of us, it it's a comfort for me and it makes me feel like home. And it helps me to see that, again, I'm not alone. So getting in connection with other people who have a similar background as you within your new city is going to make things a lot easier too. Or at least at first, right? While you're getting used to things. And then, honey, get out there and make local friends. Practice your Spanish. I'm speaking to myself. Practice the language. Get out there and make friends. And you don't have to be going out every night. Even if you start with just once a month doing something new, your social circle will expand as you move forward. And you'll learn more about the culture too. There's a creator on TikTok. Her name is Observation with My Eyes, and she lives out in the Balkans, I think. And she talks about the cultural differences there as well. And in particular, I'm trying to remember how she put it. And if I can find the video, I'll link it in the description so that you can see what she's talking about. Because I don't know if she has a YouTube, but I know she has a TikTok. But she talks about um, closed, what is it called? Closed systems or like closed cultures. And understanding that as a foreigner, when you move to a new place, there's you have to give yourself time to understand whether or not there are certain elements of the culture that are just closed to you because you're a foreigner, and to not take that personally while you're getting used to your new space, your new country. So for instance, I'm a single woman, I'm not married, right? There are certain elements of the culture here that's very family oriented where I live. And so as a single woman, it like that's a part of this space that I don't have access to because I'm not a married woman. And that was an example that she gave about her experience in, I want to say, Bulgaria. Was mm, she's somewhere in the Balkans, honey. I can't remember exactly which country. Maybe it's, I don't want to say Georgia, but ooh, don't quote me. um, but she gave that as an example, and she gave a couple of examples too, and it opened my eyes to a different way of seeing this experience because it can be so easy, especially when you're new to traveling alone, to feel like when you go to new spaces that it's so easy to take it personally when you show up to an event or you show up to a workout class or whatever over and over again, and you see these people are not speaking to you or they're not kind of welcoming you in. Maybe what you're encountering is like a closed a closed system or like a closed community or something. And it doesn't have to be that. It's not like serious, like, "Ooh, we are closed to," but it's just like, okay, they have their own thing going. I've been coming regularly for 3 months, and I still don't have any friends here. Maybe it's time to bounce somewhere else. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you've been going to a Pilates class for 3 months and you realize, "I haven't made any new friends here. Nobody's really talking to me. Everyone seems to, have their friends or, people they come to class with, and I haven't made any friends here." Then maybe it's time to try something else. Maybe it's time to go somewhere else and try something new. So that was kind of that's I bring that up because that helps me with the loneliness factor, is realizing, like, maybe it's not me. Maybe it's the fact that this is just kind of like a closed system here, and I have to find another avenue where I can, make friends a little bit easier. And so, listen, if hearing that makes you feel like, well, oh, geez, that sounds really hard and really difficult, and ugh, it's a reality. It's a reality of moving to a new place as an adult. It's a reality of you know getting involved and getting integrated into a new culture and a new place. Um, you're going to meet some people that welcome you with open arms, and then you'll meet some people who don't. And it really does depend on where you go. Because certain cultures, like, I'll tell you right now, in South Korea, there were there were a very specific people who were kind and welcoming and gracious. Most of those people were my co-teachers who already spoke English. But the culture, South Korean culture in and of itself is not warm. I would not describe it as warm. Um, and this is not to say that there are not nice people there, but, like, you might find it easier if in a culture like that, where it's not naturally warm, where strangers don't really talk to each other and that kind of thing, it might be easier for you, if you're going there to teach, for example, or do something else, um, to get involved with a kind of like a ready-made community, like a church, for instance, right? Ready-made community. You all believe the same thing. So there's a certain level of acceptance that you'll receive because within that system, if you all have an overarching belief system or um, culture, like religious culture, and so it might be a little bit easier to make friends and get connected through that. Or I don't know, what's another culture besides like religion? I can't think of one right now off the top of my head. I think religion comes up because I knew another teacher who was Jehovah's Witness. And so when she moved out there, she automatically like got involved in a Jehovah's Witness church in Seoul and, had this whole community of people because they were all Jehovah's Witness. You know what I mean? So that's an example, I think, of uh interestingly enough, kind of like a closed system where you kinda have to know or believe that the same thing in order to get ingra do you see what I'm saying? Do you see what I'm getting at here? Anyway, but again, like, that's a part of it. That's a part of the journey. That's a part of the experience, and every person's experience is gonna be different, and it depends on where you're going and the connections or lack thereof you have when you get there. So that's why I say get in some of these Facebook groups, connect with other people online, whether it's through Instagram or Reddit or whatever. Try to get some information before you go. And if you can do a scouting trip, that's helpful too. And then, once you touch down, connect with folks. Go to an event for foreigners within the space or within the city that you're moving to and take it from there. But I think it's important to remain open even when the novelty starts to wear off and the day-to-day life begins happening and you see how different things are, it's really important to um, remain open, to make sure you have support, um, and and to just keep going, right? Just keep moving through that feeling. And when you come out the other side, that's when shit really gets good. All right. So if you don't know me, my name is Siobhan. I'm a 40 something Black American woman trolling these internet streets talking about agency, women, especially Black women, having agency over their lives through solo travel, through moving abroad, through the types of relationships you choose to involve yourself in, all of these different aspects of what it means to be a woman in the modern world. Um, and yeah, that's about it, friends. I'm just looking over my notes to see if there's anything else. Yeah, I think that's it. Cool, cool. I'll see you tomorrow.